Now, I know the last 16 has basically only just started, but I still feel like there's plenty to get our teeth sunk into. So here are players to buy and avoid ahead of the quarterfinals. Now, before we get into some player suggestions for the video, I wanted to quickly go through the tournament tree because I think, quite simply, the routes to the final are going to be really crucial when it comes to picking players in this game, right? And it's split into two groups. I don't know quite how the Euros have titled it, but there's a pool of teams at the top, basically, with one route to the final, and a pool of teams to the bottom with a different route. You can see the top tier of route to the final, if you like, has Spain, Germany, Belgium, France, and Portugal all in it. And I'd suggest, these are some of the strongest teams in the tournament, whereas the bottom tier has much weaker teams, and I would suggest there are probably some front runners as to teams you could kind of expect to at least get to the semi-finals, if not the final. And I think it's quite obvious, really. The best players to be buying at this time in this game are players that you'd expect to get relatively far in the tournament, right? So Spain and Germany playing each other, for example, in the quarterfinals is quite a scary fixture because both teams are looking really strong. And I'd actually say Spain and Germany are the two strongest teams I've seen so far in the tournament. And they're playing each other in the quarterfinals. So yes, I'm going to recommend you actually a Spain player to buy. But there's a risk they go out in the quarterfinals. And if you buy them, you're only going to have them for 1 week and then you're going to need to sell. So when buying players, I'm not going to go through all of the teams because they quite simply haven't played yet either, right? So I can't. But I think regardless of who plays and what the scores are, the simple thing to bear in mind is you have to pick players you think are going to go far in the tournament. And when you look at the teams in that sort of top tier, just I'm pointing in the right direction, just there, it's looking quite tough for a lot of these teams to get through. Whereas the bottom tier, I'm looking at the likes of the Netherlands, England, etc. Well, Netherlands and England being, in my mind, the stronger teams here, potentially Switzerland as well, although they play England. That seems to be the better sort of, part of the tournament tree to select your players from. Anyway, just some musings before we get into some players themselves. But ultimately, looking at this tournament tree and various teams' routes to the final is really important when it comes to picking players in this fantasy game. All right then, this might be me as a biased England fan talking here, but the way that the game for England played out in that last 16 game against Slovakia, I think it will serve to really boost England mentally. I think their players throughout the group stages and, well, most of the game against Slovakia, they're really feeling the pressure of the English media, the English public, because there's actually some real expectation behind England in this tournament, particularly considering where they got in the last Euros. Unlucky to go out of the World Cup, some would argue. The bookies' odds had England as favourites in Britain, right? That's how, favoured they were to win the tournament. I think the players have been feeling that pressure. However, the way the game played out against Slovakia, I think, is the best thing that could mentally happen to that team, and particularly one man who bailed England out in Jude Bellingham. Now, I'll admit that he has not had the best tournament so far by any stretch. For the first 30 minutes against Serbia, it was absolutely incredible and then just fell off a cliff, basically. For the next couple of games, or even the game against Slovakia, it wasn't really any good until the end. I just feel that the mentality boost England are going to get from that victory against Slovakia will serve them really well, particularly Jude Bellingham, who, of course, he scored the all-important goal, right? He's absolutely nailed on for England. I don't think there's any reason that he's not going to start for them. And I think Southgate, the way he's playing him as a number 10, similar to how he played for Real Madrid, of course, he's seeing him as a big goal threat and using him in that way. So I think there's only more goals to come for Jude Bellingham. And if you just go back to the tournament tree, right? Yes, England-Switzerland is a tough game, but I would say England, based on world rankings, quality of players they have, etc., I would still back them to get relatively far in this tournament. And like I said, you want to be picking players you'd expect to get far in this tournament so you don't have to use a load of transfers to sell them. And I think Jude Bellingham ticks that box. And at 9.5 million, right, he's the most expensive kind of midfielder you can go for. So if he does get knocked out, it means that you can downgrade him to anyone and be able to buy them, right? I really like the idea of having the most expensive player in each position because it allows you to have so much flexibility in your team. So yeah, Jude Bellingham, got to consider him an option in my opinion. I just wanted to also talk about the England defence because, yes, I know some might say they've been disappointed in this tournament, but they played 4 games now and only conceded a couple of goals and still have 2 clean sheets throughout the tournament, right? Looking at their tournament, route to the final, etc., and historically just how good they've been defensively in these international tournaments, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say that some of these England defenders are going to be worth buying for your team, especially, like you say, considering their route to the final. I'd still put them as one of the favourites to get there, particularly when you consider the other teams that are in the other sort of part of the tournament tree. You know, Spain, Germany, Portugal, etc. all good defensively, but I think with the potential opposition that they're going to face in the route to the final, anything could happen there, right? Whereas I just think the England defence is as safe as it gets, really, when it comes to picking defenders in the knockout stages. I know that's quite a risky thing to say, but that's just my opinion. And I would say there are 3 players from that England defence I'd definitely say are worth picking. Stones, Walker and Pickford. None of them have like yellow card threat at the moment. They're going to start, in my mind, every game to the final unless something drastic happens. Take your pick of these 3, basically. I would, though, avoid Trippier and Guéhi. Guéhi got a suspension in the Slovakia game, so he's going to miss the quarter-final game against Switzerland. I'd imagine Konsa comes in at centre-back, in his place. Could be Joe Gomez as well, could be Dunk, but I just feel like Southgate's going to pick Konsa. But we don't know that for sure, so I can't say buy Konsa. And, you know, he's only suspended for 1 game, right? And I imagine Guéhi comes back in for the semi. And then Kieran Trippier, he's obviously been starting at left-back for England so far, but Luke Shaw is back in training. Is Shaw going to be fit for the quarter-final? I guess that's a question mark, and the semi-final, final, etc. I just think it always leaves Trippier kind of on tenterhooks as to whether he's definitely going to play, particularly with him being right-footed on that left-hand side. I think it's really been stifling the England attack. So as soon as Luke Shaw is ready to go for a start, I think he's going to be thrown back into that team. Could be the quarterfinals, could be the semis, but with that in mind, I'd probably avoid Trippier as well. One player I do really like, and he's in my team, has been in my team for the last 16 and beyond, is Fabian Ruiz. I think he's great value for, you know, the point scoring potential that he provides, particularly considering the form he's been in this tournament. 6.5 million for a guy that's got 4 attacking returns in 3 appearances. He's also really quite decent for ball recoveries too. He's averaging a ball recovery point every game, and he's absolutely nailed on for Spain. The manager seems to really, really like the guy, and he's looking like one of the best players in the tournament right now. And it's 6.5 million. I don't think you can go particularly wrong. Now, I know it's a little bit of a risk. Spain played Germany in the quarterfinals, right? But I still feel like with how good he's been, he's going to be able to, you know, Spain are going to be able to score in that game. I think likewise Germany too. I just think Fabian Ruiz is a good punt and a decent option. Considering, you know, 6.5 million for the upside he's providing this tournament. He's great value. Alright, and that's the end of the video. Just a bit of a ramble, to be honest. I just wanted to get a video out because it's been a while since I uploaded this channel, being away at Glastonbury, etc. So I wanted to summarise kind of what we learned so far from the last 16. And just in general, I think the most important thing to take away from this video is obviously my thoughts about those particular players, but to really be knowledgeable about that tournament tree, because we need to be picking players we think are going to get far in the tournament. And I think there's one side of that tournament tree where it's really tricky to predict those teams. So if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments what you think of what I've had to say there. You can subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just here on your screen if you want to see more content from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.